Hey, Brandy.
Hey, and thanks for jumping on early.
You know what? I'm always early. I'm always that person, and I married somebody who's always late, so I'm still trying to keep time.
There you go.
Are you the kind of person that is always early, or do you tend to run late?
My mom said if you're on time, you're late. So that's always stuck.
100%.
As I've gotten older, I'm a little more likely to run late, but not often, and I always let people know if I am.
You're probably like me. Even if you're gonna run 5 minutes late, you get that pit in your stomach, like they're judging me. They're not gonna like me. I'm a bad person, right?
I just don't ever want. I mean, and I guess that we're all raised differently, but my mom raised us that being late was saying that your time was more important than someone else's. So I don't ever want anyone to think I think that.
How have you been dealing with sort of not being able to go on stage or go out in public or being in quarantine? Have you picked up a new hobby? Are you just getting used to this Zoom thing, or what have you been doing?
I've Zoomed a lot. Zoom has saved my life during this year because I've still been able to co-write, and it's a huge part of what I do. Being not just being creative by myself, but with others, and it helps me to be able to collaborate. And then when I'm creating by myself, my stuff I'm doing on my own is better because of the inspiration that I get from working with others. So Zoom has been a big one for me.
This is now a Zoom commercial. They're going to pay us. This is fantastic. I love this. We're going to get some sponsorships.
I was telling somebody earlier that when this started, I was in New York doing the Today Show. I think I was maybe the last person that got to do the Artist Lounge before this all started. And on my way to the airport to go to LA for a work session, and in the car, I get a text that says the session's been changed to a Zoom session. I had no idea what that was. And I don't think most people in our working group knew what it was. Within a week, the world knew what Zoom was.
Well, there's always that meme that goes around. If you could tell yourself one thing pre-quarantine or pre-pandemic, what would it be? And it's like, invest in Zoom because you're going to be a lot richer.
Yeah, I agree.
Have you picked up a new hobby at all, or has it all been writing, music focused? Have you been baking, cooking?
Man, I'm not much of a cook. I wish I could say I was. Any new hobbies? I don't think I've picked up anything new, but I've dove into some things. I got an octave mandolin at the start of this, and so I played that. Not I didn't play it near as much as I should have. But okay, I'm going to learn a new instrument. I learned it a little. I've been reading a lot, which is a hobby for me. I got another dog. I had two dogs, now I have three. So that's a full-time hobby right there.
What's the new puppy's name?
Charlie.
Oh, that's such a perfect dog name too.
Yeah.
The Brandy Clark approved. What's something we should read that you've read during quarantine?
So I just read, I think maybe it's in my top two books of all time for me as far as adult books. It's called Valentine. It's somebody in my book club called it They're Grown Up to Kill a Mockingbird. And I think that's a very good comparison.
You honestly couldn't have set me up better because I wanted to ask you about Valentine's Day coming up this weekend. Do you have plans, or are you just going to be sitting in and watching movies or reading books, or what are you going to do?
I'm going to be watching. So here we go, talking about TV and hobbies. I love Bryan Cranston, anything he's in. And the finale of Your Honor is on Valentine's Day. So that's what I'll be doing on Valentine's Day night, is watching that show, which is not really a romance in any way.
It's a show that has been on sort of my bucket list because we all have ones that everybody's talking about during the pandemic. And Your Honor is one for me that when I'm done Yellowstone, I can finally start on Your Honor.
Yeah, and well, Yellowstone's great. I got into Yellowstone during the pandemic. Your Honor's a quicker watch than Yellowstone because it's just after Sunday it'll be 10 episodes. But it's kind of nice. I mean, anybody who loved Breaking Bad, it's kind of nice to see Bryan Cranston. I mean, it's not quite Walter White, but he's a judge and not necessarily an honorable judge at times. So it's pretty fun to watch.
Don't forget those of us who loved Malcolm in the Middle. We're all Hal fans at this point
You know,
too.
I was thinking Bryan Cranston, he just needs to always play dads because this is really at the heart of who he is in Your Honor. And much like Breaking Bad, he's always just trying to do what's best for his family. But if you're not his family, you might need to watch out.
So that's Valentine's Day plans, and I understand that this Grammy-nominated album, "Your Life Is a Record," was inspired by a pretty, unfortunate big breakup, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, the end of I was in the same relationship for 15 years. And we're great friends, and the breakup needed to happen, but at the time it doesn't always feel that way. And it's just a lot of change in that. And I feel really lucky because at the time that these songs were being written, the album starts out with "I'll Be the Sad Song" and it ends on "Past is the Past." And someone that interviewed me said, when you wrote "Past is the Past," which for those of you that haven't heard the record, it's one of the few songs on the record that has a whole lot of hope. If you like sad songs, this is your jam right here. Those of you that don't have a Valentine date, this would be the album to listen to. But I said, well, when I wrote "Past is the Past," which is about being, past someone and moving on in your life and being happy for them, and you being happy, maybe not happy, but settled into moving into something new, it was a hope. But by the time the album was recorded and into the world, it was reality. So I feel like, that's a positive.
But it's therapy for you too, right? In writing these songs and getting to put out these songs, is that a way for you as a songwriter and an artist to move past some of the feelings you were feeling or get them out?
Oh, it's 100%. I mean, anytime I'm writing songs, whether they're for me or for another artist, there's a lot of therapy in it. It's a way to sometimes dig through some things that, a lot people who don't write songs or tell stories in that way, that's not their job, probably don't get to. Like, I get to really look at a lot of places in my life with a magnifying glass. And so, yeah, I've worked through a lot through songs.
For those of us that don't write songs, we have therapy. For those who do, you have songwriting, and we all need some sort of outlet, especially during a pandemic when we're all so much in our head and stuck inside. We need some sort of outlet, right?
Oh, yeah. And I go to therapy too. So what does that say about me? I have the songs and then I pay somebody. Yeah, you got to get it out and share it. The great thing about being a songwriter is you get to, I love when somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, you know my life," or, "Oh my God, I've lived that." Or, so one lady said to me, "How did you read my diary?" I love that because I feel like, oh, I've shared this vulnerable part of my heart, and it makes somebody else feel less alone in that same vulnerability.
And as great as that validation is, I'm sure. How do they come in? Because I always want to know this. When you get a Grammy nomination, is it an email? Is it a phone call? Is it somebody skywriting above your place? How does
It,
that news get to you?
well, this time, well, it's always online, I think. I mean, I've been nominated in the general categories before, and those are on TV oftentimes. But when it's like this year, I'm nominated for Best Country Album and Best Country Solo Performance. Those are online, and they all come out at once. Like all 86 or whatever, however many nominations there are. It's just like boom, and so you got to scroll down and find. But actually, I'm lying. That's not how that happened this year. It was a live stream. This year it was a live stream, but there are other times where they all have come out at once. But this year was a live stream, and I cannot remember who announced mine, but it was exciting, and you're hopeful, and when your publicist tells you, "Hey, we need you to be on there, and let's tape your reaction," you're really hopeful that, oh, well, they wouldn't be taping me. Oh, but you never know.
Now and then, do you watch your phone just blow up, or who's the first person that calls in that scenario once they all come out?
Well, this time the first person who reached out to me is a guy named Robert Horn, who I've known for years. We've been working on a musical together. He's actually a book writer for musicals, and he was the very first person that reached out to me.
That is so cool. And
Mhm.
then I'm just sure the rest of the day you're on the phone. Thank you, thank you. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those, you're blessed that you get to respond to 150 texts, and I always, that's a big deal to me. Like, I make sure I respond to everybody because, I've texted people before that never text me back, and I'll think, "Hey, I was just congratulating you on your nomination. You could at least just send me a heart."
It, It's
So
bad in that scenario. It's worse in a group chat when none of your friends even want to respond to something you just said. You're like, I know you all have your phone in your lap. Nobody wants to respond to the thing that I just said here.
yes, oh yeah, I understand. I feel you.
Um, Tell me a little bit about the single, which is also Grammy nominated. Who You Thought I Was. It's such a beautiful song and such a great storytelling song.
Thank you. Well, it was inspired by one of the greatest storytellers of all time, John Prine. I was at the Americana Awards a couple years ago, and he was there introducing Iris DeMent. And he came out on stage, and he wasn't introduced. He just walked out. And when he walked out, everybody stood up and gave him a standing ovation for a good long while. And when everybody finally sat down, I honestly think in an attempt to not get emotional, he said, "Well, I'm John Prine, but I'd like to go back. I'd like to go back to being who you thought I was." And it really hit me. You know, it was at a time when I was going through that breakup, and I just thought, "Oh man, I'd like to go back to being who somebody thought I was." And um, and then it hit me as a songwriter, like that's a song. So I put it in my phone, and there we were in the Ryman Auditorium, and I thought, I bet every other songwriter in here put it in their phone too. So I better go in and write it tomorrow. I might not be able to write it best, but I'll write it first. And so I did. I wrote it with Jesse Joe Dillon and Jonathan Singleton, and thought it was a guy song, honestly. Jonathan sang the demo, but there was something about that song I really loved. And so about 2 weeks before I was going in the studio, I played it for my manager and said, "Hey, I think this is probably not for me, but I want to play it for you, just, you know, to be sure." And she said, "Oh no, I think you should do this. I think, and don't change cowboy to cowgirl. Don't change Elvis to a female artist. Just sing it the way it is." And then the label heard, I did a guitar vocal and the label heard it, and then went in with Jay Joyce and we recorded it. And it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, on the project. And I was so excited that it was what we led with on this.
I think it's so beautiful because it can mean anything to anybody, whether you're thinking of your parents or your best friend or a mentor you had, or your partner, a former partner. There's so many people that they see you a certain way, and if they love on you so much, everybody has that feeling of, dang, I wish I was the person that you think I am or thought I was, right?
Oh yeah, I think yes, I do. I think we've all felt that way. I think that's why it's so hard to disappoint. You say parents. It's why it's so hard when you disappoint your parents, because you're just, oh, I want to go back to being the kid they thought I was before I wrecked that car.
Okay, give me an example. Did you wreck a car, or what is the moment that popped into your mind that you're like, dang, how did I disappoint you like that?
I don't have that with my parents, honestly. I thought it would be when I came out and told them I was gay, and they couldn't have been more accepting. So I'm lucky. I've got really great parents. I mean, I disappointed them as a kid, like doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing. But I told somebody the other day, I said, I've never lived hard. Like I've never had a big party phase of my life or anything like that. But, just little things. I think they were disappointed enough in the little things. I never wanted to disappoint them really in a major way.
You must be not a younger sibling, because as a younger sibling with the A+ student as an older brother, I was just a constant like, dang, I just coming in short all the time.
I mean, I was the older sister, and my brother was wild. So
you did mention coming out, and I wasn't planning on talking about it, but you mentioned it. How proud of you were TJ when TJ came out and did that amazing piece in Time? And
so proud and just really happy for him, that he feels comfortable enough to be his authentic self to everyone. I mean, I've known TJ. I've never known him really well. I'm a huge Brothers Osborne fan. John actually played on Bad Car, John Osborne. I did not know that he was gay, and I think it's great to have a man like him representing. He's not necessarily everybody's idea of what a gay man is. And so I think that's so great for people to see that, there's all different colors of the rainbow when it comes to the LGBT community, LGBTQ plus. I need to definitely put the plus in there. I'll have somebody throwing hate at me over that. But I'm really just happy for him that he feels comfortable enough in his own skin to share that with everybody.
For me, just watching him in interviews after, you could see a weight off his shoulder. You could see he was a bit, fresher and breathing easier. And it was so heartwarming to see all of the amazing reaction after it as well. Is that sort of light feeling and weight off your shoulder feeling? Is that how you felt when you told everybody?
Yeah, and by the time I got to make records, I was already out, so it was just a known
Yeah,
thing.
I was talking family and friends. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, and so, but even, honestly, the last time I remember feeling that way was when I started to make records, because the people I was working with didn't know I was gay, and I thought, I've got to tell them, is that going to change this opportunity for me? And I remember being really, really twisted up. And then when I did, and it wasn't a big deal, it was like, oh. So I get that feeling, and I think for him, it's even the gravity of it is much heavier because he's a man, and country music and Americana music, there has been representation of females being open and out for a long time. I mean, I remember as a little girl, Katie Lang. My mom was a huge Katie Lang fan, and she was gay and she was open about it. I think with men, this is the first time. Well, I'm sorry, Ty Herndon, he came out of the closet, but TJ, it's a big deal, and in country music, I think a bigger deal for men than women.
I wanted to get you out of here on this, and I can't thank you enough for your time. You're such a pleasure to talk to. I feel like I could just hang out with you and talk with you all day. It's fantastic. So,
Same here.
um, we do this really cool segment on this YouTube channel I'm doing this interview for called My Nashville Story. And whether it is your first time you remember being in Nashville or your first sort of Nashville experience, one that pops out in your mind.
Wow. Well, I think my first, what will always be one of my first memories. I came to Nashville. I moved here in August, and I came to just see it in April. And I'm from Washington State, and so flew here with my best friend, and it was so different than where I was from. It was like felt like a different country. And I have no sense of direction, and I'm not a good planner. And so we get here, and we're just looking around, and we want to go to the Opry, but we get lost. And so we finally get to the Opry, and it's like, ta-da, there it is. And for me, I mean, it was like, I don't know. It was like the Wizard of Oz. It was like we've finally gotten to the Emerald City. And it was late. Like they weren't selling any more tickets. And I went up to this woman who was working at the door, and I said, "You don't understand, like we're here from Washington State, like we've always wanted to come, and we'll pay, we know that the ticket booth was closed." And she was like, "Oh, just come in." And so I remember that really well. And I don't even remember who was playing that night, but I do remember that woman that was at the door and her letting us in, and just like was just overwhelming.
What was the feeling that you had either seeing it or actually being inside? Because I know you'll remember the feeling more than who he was on stage.
Just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm standing here. Like, this is a place I've dreamed about. I'm at that time the Opry was televised nationwide, so I would watch the Opry with my grandparents. Like, this is it right here. It's just crazy.
That's so cool. And now we got how many Grammy nominations at this point? Is it 6?
8.
Okay. 8 nominations, and think back to that little girl who was standing in front of the Opry just hoping to just get in and see somebody play. It's been an incredible journey, and congratulations on the Grammy noms. I can't wait to see what happens, and I hope you enjoy your honor this Sunday.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks for the chat.
Thank you.